Hello guys and welcome back to the channel, and if you're new for the first time, welcome. My name is Joe Acosta. I am a non-religious licensed minister, and if you're wondering what that means, it just means that I do not follow the methods and the interpretations of men. I'm after results, and that's what I get. That's what you're after. That's what you're going to get. And it's very interesting what we're going to be talking about today. It is really a second part to the last message where we're talking about healing from First Peter. Thank you for the correction. First Peter 2:24. So we'll be right back after this. So one of the things that we really have to understand is the law of opposites. And the word says, there's a verse that says that we know not how to pray, so the Spirit makes intercession for us. And we really don't. We really don't understand what's going on in the sense of how our spirit functions. We'll say praying in the Spirit, but we still don't understand that function. Most people believe this relates to speaking in tongues. And that is for lack of a better knowledge and lack of what we're teaching, because we don't understand the function of it. And if you go back to the video that I was teaching prior to this one with the diagrams and the whiteboard, you will start to understand this a little bit better. So the law of opposites, in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth, he said he made light, right? He said, let there be light. And he separated the light from the darkness. And the light and the darkness are the opposite sides of the same thing. They're the opposite sides of the day. Fear and faith is the opposite sides of the same thing. You can't have an inside without an outside. You cannot have an up without the down. Everything is the opposite. Now the Lord says, come to me all that are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So if you are burdened with illness and disease, you move in spirit, which is in your mind, in the thought aspect. You're moving to the part where you're whole, where you're healed. Feel that and be there. We have the ability to change our perspective. We can get emotionally involved with the problem and the disease and be there and perpetuate that. Or we can come to me all that are burdened, heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Move over to the spiritual aspect of it. And then you start to be there, and you can feel the burden start to be lifted off. The problem is, again, the aspect of the heart where it has to set into. And it doesn't set into very easily because of what is there already. We have to pour new wine into a new bottle. We're oftentimes trying to pour new wine into an old bottle, because you can't get it here. You have to get it from the spirit side. Go watch the video before this one, then you should come back and watch this as a second part. Now, one of the things that is very important here is the will. You have been given a very strong mental faculty that we call that is known as the will. The will is your ability to focus to the exclusion of everything else. By his stripes, we were healed. Right? 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 24. And we were healed. So I receive that in spirit, which is the same place where I am praying in spirit. We confuse that with the tongue, but it's the same place that I am praying in spirit. And as I continually hold that, I am impressing it onto my heart of hearts. Once it's impressed and sown there, it reaps into my physical being and into my environment. This is how it works all the time. The problem being that most of us cannot focus. We're so distracted. And one of the methods that it has to be your focus, and your ability to focus has to be trained. It has to be trained. We have everything around us fighting for our attention. We have little this and we have this and that, and everything is fighting for our attention. Once we accept the healing in the spiritual content and we have it there, our whole understanding moves into that, and we remain there. We don't just go back into it and then just wait for it. We already have it. In the same way that water rains down, right? It's It's H2O. It's hydrogen and two hydrogen and one oxygen, H2O. It rains down. It's first vapor. It rains down as water, and it converts into ice, and then it evaporates, and then eventually it melts and evaporates and goes back up, and the cycle continues. We have it in the stage in our mind holding as a vapor. And as we hold on to that, it will eventually rain down. The problem is the beliefs that we have in there that are stuck, that we took in through our five physical senses, and what we hear and what we see and what we hear. So the will becomes very strong. Now, I want you to watch this here really quick. This is Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. That is a very important verse there. We will talk about that at some point here. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Let me read that last verse there, right? God created the heavens and the earth, and he said, "Let there be light." And then he divided the light from the darkness. And that was the first day. God took one day to do that. And the evening and the day was the first day. Why? We would assume that God naturally just bloom and it just happens. Why would it take God 6 days to create the earth, and on seventh day he rested? Why? The questions, we have to learn how to ask the right questions that draws down the right answers that causes me to grow and move. We don't do that, and sometimes we don't think that there is an answer. We'll never find out. No, God is omnipresent, he's all-powerful, and he's all-knowing. So that means that all the knowledge and all the power is equally present in all places at the same time. That means in you, that means in me, and that means around us. So it's there. Ask, you shall receive. So what we understand from this, then, is that if God took the day to create and separate the light from the darkness, and the evening and the day were the first day, then we have to understand something, because it goes on doing it, and the evening and the day, and God saw that it was good. So what is going on? God said, "Let there be light." See, one of the problems is that we have the habit of putting something in the oven or putting something in the microwave and then coming back when the bell dings. And that's not how this works. It has to be focused on. It does not work like that. You don't just and throw it out there and then you're just going to come back and see if it's done. It's not like that. You have to hold it with the will, because all your actions, all your thoughts have to coincide with what you are after. And the light started forming, and it started to take place. We would say the sun started to form and started to take place and started to move into its orbit, or in its station, or while we became in its orbit. And it started to come in as we see him today. And when he finished, when it was over, God saw that it was good. And he separated the light and the darkness. And the evening and the day were the first day. Now, God is doing this, one, for our purpose, so that we understand our function as well. Because if you're holding it on your focus to the exclusion of everything else, and God is doing it until it's done, and when it's done, he looks at it and goes, "And God saw that it was good." That means I have to hold it with my will on the screen of my mind until it's done, and so that I can see that it was good, until it takes form, until that happens. There's a reason why we're not on the level of Christ, anywhere near it. So we're not going to move nowhere as fast as he did at all. We're not going to move like God did and created the heavens and the earth in one day. But we can move in baby steps. And as we get closer, as we get better, right? We don't learn anything right away. You don't start driving immediately on the first day and just get up and go get your license on the first day behind the wheel of a car. So it takes time to get this in there. And the more you grow, the more you trust. The more you grow in understanding, the closer relationship you build with God. The closer relationship you understand what God has given you. And the more you understand God, the more you understand yourself, the more you understand God. In your relationship, you become in harmony. You fall into harmony with him because you're shedding everything that's in disharmony with him. And so with the disease, you're holding the healing, the completion, the wholeness. My eyes healed instantly. And I used to wear glasses. My prescription was 30/30. It used to say it on my license. And some of you have heard me say this before. But for years when I read Bible and I'd go to church, I always understood things in such a different way. And I was very fortunate to have a pastor that was a theologian that understood a lot of things in a different depth than what is normally taught within the realm of church or from a pulpit. And so we got behind the scenes of some of the things in a closer depth. And that allowed me to even have a greater understanding besides what I was already getting and watching happen in my own life. So I'm saying that to say that while I was on the way to an eye appointment, I said, God, I see things in a spiritual sense. I can see things from a spiritual sense and how they transcend into a physical sense. I would love to be able to see physically the way I can see some things spiritually. And as I went under a freeway to get to the other side where the doctor's office was, I could instantly see clearly. I could see trees at a distance, trees on the top of a hill. I could see the leaves, and it was amazing. And my eyes, I'm 49 now, and my eyes have not changed from that. I can see far across. The doctors could not believe how well my eyes had changed from the last time they saw me. That took place instantly because it had already been there in spirit. It was already sewn into me. Okay, so sometimes we don't sew that into ourselves. So all my body is doing is reflecting, and my environment and my body are reflecting what is on the inside already. Sometimes we make the space, but we don't move into it. And we don't move into it because we don't have the ability to focus. Once I accept that by his stripes I was healed, I have to remain there in my mind to the exclusion of everything else until it comes into form and I can see that it's good. It's not about just the healing. It's not about just the physical healing. It's not. It's about the growth that's happening. It is what I am shedding off of myself that is unlike God, because that's unlike God. The disease is unlike God. The fact that I cannot see that I am created in his image and his likeness is unlike God. And if he resides within me, then he wants to reside within me for a purpose. The Ark of the Covenant was built in a specific way. And we say that the Ark of the Covenant was to the Old Testament what Christ was to the New Testament, which we are then to this after the New Testament. But we have to be there. We have to be there. And that's the gospel that has to go around. And unless we get into this, see, you have to understand, Christ came and he chose the disciples because they were seeking also. Right now, there's not a lot of people seeking. The Pharisees believed they already knew and had the answers. When you believe you already know and have the answers, regardless of the results that you're seeing, because then we have to make an excuse for the results. This is where the devil comes in and we start shedding the blame on him. When we do that, we fall into stagnicity. And when we hear a word, as true as it may be, out of the mouth of Christ, what is in us comes up to reject it. It comes up to fight against it. It comes up to try to quote a scripture. It comes up to push it away. That's enmity. And then we have the other person that just believes we'll never know. And we're not going to know until we die and go to heaven. And when you get to heaven, you'll be surprised that you're not going to remember the things that were here. So you're not going to know that. And so they don't understand that it's already present. The answers are already present. What it takes is asking the right questions. Asking the right questions. And you can go this way and search yourself. And as long as you really want it, eventually you'll find it. But if you learn from somebody that already knows, you'll fly like a rocket. You can start to skip a lot of things. Can you imagine if we would have took children to teach them math or mathematics from an early age and then we just waited for them to figure it out, how far behind they would be. But because they can learn it from us and we teach it to them, they can go and advance even further. right? So that's the same thing. A lot of times pride will hold us back, and we want to hold what we got, and we want to, it's on the buffet. We can't pick and choose what we want and leave the rest behind. And so being able to focus and hold that to the exclusion of everything else. And like I said before in the previous video, don't talk to other people about it. You're working on something because you don't want what's in them to be able to argue against what's in you and what is being done in you. And so you want to hold it until it shows up finally. And that's what you want to, unless you have somebody that understands and thinks exactly the way you do not want to do that, because all that's going to happen is most of the time, they're going to try to discourage you based off of their beliefs. In a lot of the YouTube videos, you'll want to see comments, or you'll see comments on any of the sometimes they post up the videos, you'll see comments. There used to be a lot more. They're constantly trying to argue because it's where they're at, and they're trying, like a Pharisee, holding on to that. But when we're searching and we're hungry, we're going to continue to find, as long as we're really seeking that and we hold that question, the answer is there. The answer is already there, and God gives them to us oftentimes as an idea or a thought, and all an idea or a thought is, an idea is a thought directed towards a purpose, and there is a purpose of learning these things. There's a purpose of that growth. And so we want that. And in order to train your will, one of the easiest ways is find your favorite chair and maybe light a candle on the opposite side of the room from your favorite chair, and sit there and focus on that flame, and focus on the flame. And your mind's going to wander. You're going to bring it back. It's okay. That's what it's going to do, because that is where we are at. And some of you, if you can hold it for 5 seconds, it's going to be a family record. But you're going to hold it and come back and hold your mind to that flame until you feel like you're one with that flame. And of course, you're not going to catch fire, but you're going to hold your mind there. Everything. I mean, if you take your phone, for example, your phone is set in such a way, if you have like Facebook or any of these things like that, it chooses an algorithm that knows what you like, it knows what you like to hear, and it constantly is trying to grab your attention to be on this. Well, if you're there, or if you have your children are always running around, they're disrupting you and this and that, and this is your time to focus or anything like that, and you're constantly, I gotta go here, and you're constantly on the go, it's going to be very difficult for you to focus. It is going to be, sit there and watch how long you can focus on the flame before your mind starts to go somewhere else, and it just wanders away into a thought, and just another thought, and then that thought leads to another thought, and that thought, and it just continues on a cycle. Your mind will sit there and pop up a question that you're going to now go on your phone and Google, because here's where you're going to get the answer, not from God. You're going to get the answer from here. And so the growth is inhibited, and the result that you're going after is inhibited. If you have cancer, then you want to not be no cancer. You want to be whole, the same way God created you. I am so happy and grateful now that every fiber of my being functions perfectly. I am well and I am healed. And that is where you're going to reside. You're going to reside there and only there until that takes hold. And if you can't, then it's going to take longer. And it's going to take longer. And the longer it takes, more likely you are to fail at it. You'll reap in due season if you faint not. Bring it back. Bring it back and hold it with your will on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of everything else. There's things you're going to have to do during the day. I understand that. But it's always there in the back of your mind. The same way that something is on the back of your mind, like a worry or a doubt, something that you don't want, will sit there with you no matter what you're doing. It's on the back of your mind. Something bothered you that someone said or someone did or that you did, and it's on your mind, it's in your heart and on your spirit, and it's bothering you and you can't get rid of it. Like a bad dream that you woke up from and it's bothered you 2 days later. Okay, you want to hold that good on the screen of your mind, in your heart. It's already taken place. It's already there. If you have it in spirit, you have it in your heart, you have it physically. It just has to move through. And it moves through by you holding it with that will. All right. So hopefully this has helped some people. Comment below. like, subscribe, and share this with somebody, because we really need to grow. And again, I have these books here. Let the Answer Sink In, and Believer's Guide to Christ in You Manifested. The descriptions, the links will be in the description below, and I will be coming out with another one very soon here. All right? God bless. Talk to you later.